We've got some great names online, some names I haven't seen before, so welcome. Aletta, we've got Christiana, Emma, Jem, Louise. Welcome, everybody. We're just going to wait a few more minutes and then we're going to get going. We're not going to run over time late tonight. We want to be done in an hour, so give us about another minute and then we're ready to go. So I just thought I'd tell you before we start that I did a 2-hour yoga detox this morning and it was grueling. So I was thinking it would get me into a nice chilled out state to sort of really talk to you this evening, but I'm feeling really excited and ready to go and highly motivated. Hopefully that's going to come through to you guys as well. I've got Stacey with me. Stacey Summers from the Wolfpack. Hi guys. And there's going to be a few things that she'll say as well, but I think we need to just sort of get going, and hopefully anybody else who joins us will just catch up as we go along. So your vision for 2017, I'm sure that sort of conjures up quite a few thoughts, you know. I'm sure a lot of you have already started with some plans already. Maybe some of you have already felt that the plans you started with already sort of failing or perhaps becoming challenging. So hopefully tonight we'll get some things clarified for you. So welcome. My name is Theresa Day and I'm a performance and confidence coach. And I just thought I'd give you a little bit about my qualifications before we get going, just so that you sort of know a little bit more about who's actually speaking to you this evening. So I qualified with the Life Coaching Institute back in 2008, and quite frankly, feels like eons ago already. Very proud of the fact that I got a distinction. That's why it's right up there at the top. And I've just found myself in a profession that I absolutely thrive and love being in. In 2010, I started a group called Monday Motivation. Some of you might have heard of it. It's a group that ran weekly in Inverurie. And I've run that for 6 years and just recently stopped running it because I needed to move on to bigger things and groups like the Wolfpack. So I'm also a Mastery Club facilitator, and that is a fantastic program for young people, giving them life skills for confidence, goal setting, and just filling in the gaps where the teachers educate them on certain topics and subjects, and we bring in life skills. It complements the curriculum for excellence very well as well. My greatest inspiration is Anthony Robbins. I don't know if any of you know him, have heard of him, or even spent time looking at some of his work or attended his events. But for me, I had the privilege of going to Unleash the Power Within back in 2013 and did the 4-day event there, starting with a firewalk, which was absolutely incredible and life-changing. And then back in 2015, I did business mastery with him as well in London, which brought so much value to what I do as a coach with my different clients, you know. But really, when I left school, I started out and qualified as a fashion designer. So I often say to people, I've sort of started out designing clothing, and I've ended up helping design lives and lifestyles, you know. So my creative mind has definitely not gone to sleep. I've also qualified with a marketing diploma and various sales training that I've done, which support other aspects. And last but not least, I am mother to 2 very, very delightful kids who surprise me daily, and met Stacey for the first time this evening, in fact, and yeah, they're cool.
Absolutely lovely.
So
Very cute kids.
that's just sort of a little bit of a bite bit about me. And I'm sure as the evening goes on, you'll get a better feel. Right. So, behold your potential. This is one of my favorite focuses right now. You know, it's 2017 and it's a year. There's going to be a year afterwards and a year after that. And we've had years before. It's about what we want to behold within ourselves and develop and achieve as we grow with time. So at the moment, the focus is 2017 because that's right where we are right now. So it's really about believing in yourself, beholding your potential, and then with all that magnificence, being able to reach beyond that horizon. So, yeah. House cleaning.
So I guess just to kind of make you aware that this is a very interactive session, so if you do have any questions that you'd like Theresa to answer, please feel free to type them in the comments and questions box, and we'll hopefully be able to answer some things that are a bit more specific to your life and where you are in the journey at the moment.
That's great. Thank you, Stacey. So our agenda for this evening that I'm going to cover with you are the points that you can probably see before you right now. The first one is going to be age and goal setting. The second, reaching your outcome sooner rather than later. The power of visual media on goals. Peak performers mindset. And the high achievers motivation formula. Right, so I'm sure that's got you excited. I certainly hope so. But before we get there, let's just hear a bit about my story. I was originally born in Cape Town, South Africa. And if you just look at this slide that's before you, I have not traveled the whole world, but I've certainly been to quite a few places, but as a young child moved around South Africa quite a bit, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Pretoria, and then back to Cape Town to finish sort of my high school career and my fashion design studies and all that. It was then later on when I married my husband that he sort of uprooted me from South Africa and brought me to his home in England. Where we then started really, it felt at the time, from scratch. And we've slowly built up. So we spent 2 years in England and then came to Scotland. But over the time, we've traveled around, and I've had the pleasure of being able to go to Hong Kong, Thailand, Florida, Ibiza, Paris, Mozambique, China, you know, even the Isle of Harris. Beautiful, beautiful countries. Holland, Italy, you know, so many great places. And with that, there is this ability to develop a sense of different cultures, and that people essentially are different because of where they've developed and grown. But at the core of us all, there are just two main things that drive everybody, and that is, one, we all want to be loved, and second, that desire for acceptance and approval, you know. So there is this whole journey that I've had, but coaching arrived sort of not too far in arriving in England. I had started importing a range of products from South Africa, and to not go into detail about it, basically when I was ready to sign a distribution agreement for the UK, the directors decided to pull the plug because they thought they'd come across a more lucrative opportunity from somebody else. And so they sent me packing after an 18-month intense business building process. And I'm sure any of you in business would understand that when you start something from nothing, 18 months of dedication, just simply pulling a plug, is a very, very painful thing to have to go through, especially when it's almost sacrificed through family, you know, your young children and all that. So it was a very hard time. I felt like, you know, literally my heart had been broken. But when I looked at the business that I'd been developing, which was almost like a direct selling business, I explored the products, the import-export, the fact that I was helping other people to create income. I realized that it was the training and helping other people to create a better life for themselves that really was where my passion lay. And that's what led me into deciding to requalify and study as a coach. So that's where that journey began back in 2006. So I can just say that almost 10 years now since I've qualified, the outcome is only looking brighter and brighter. And I think that's key for us all. When you find that thing you truly love and you know why you're doing it, it just becomes that thing that you never let go of. Through thick and thin, you just keep building, So, back to our agenda and the first topic on our agenda, your age and goal setting. Now, it might seem obvious after I've said it, but if we think back, even just for this moment, think to what your age is right now and what journey you've traveled to that point. I'm going to give a general overview, but in essence, we're all unique. But in our 20s, we've just survived the teen years. You know how tough they are. We're fresh, we're highly energetic, and, we want to just get out into that world. We think we know absolutely everything. And we're either qualified or qualifying in something, or we've gone straight into the workplace. So it's the 20s is that time where, our objectives and maybe our most important things are party and work, meeting people, exploring our own individuality, separating even more so from our family unit perhaps, and just being and finding out who we are. So our goals are driven by those key things. As we move into our 30s, we're a little bit more settled. We've got a little bit more sort of stability underneath us, hopefully, in that we've been perhaps in the workplace, we've got a bit of experience under the belt. We're not just early graduates, and we're starting to maybe be heard, and we are no longer just under 30 and know nothing. I don't know if you ever had that, but that's that 30-year-old stage. You're starting to build on something now. By the time we get to 40, our goals are starting to become more defined. We know ourselves hopefully better than, we do, better than we did in our 30s or 20s, because it's an evolving process. So when we come to set goals, we're becoming more specific. By this stage, perhaps we already have a family, if that is a path we've chosen to do as well, or we are fully focused on our career and our goals are all defined by the next thing we want to achieve. Some people go through a midlife crisis in their 40s. I think everyone does in one way or another, but because it's a transition time where you're beginning to really question a little bit more than just accept, perhaps. By the time we're moving to 50s, we're starting to become the person that has the insight, we can anticipate things. We've got a little bit more value to offer. So our mentoring and our giving back, our contribution is something that becomes more of a priority, because we're hoping that by 50 and heading towards 60, we've fully really begun to really realize our dreams. Or if we're making changes at this stage, we know exactly why, and we're just going to go for it. There's no indecision anymore. It's just simply, I know that I want this and I'm going to go get it. Also, if you've had a family when you were younger, the kids are kind of moving on and they're doing their own thing. So you're freed up to really put a lot more into your own dreams and passions and desires as well. So goal setting shifts as we grow. Has anybody found that? Any comments there to agree? Perhaps, sometimes it's something worth reflecting on. We can sometimes forget that we've moved into our 30s or 40s, and perhaps we're still thinking goal-wise like a beginner because we're in a new role, but we forget that we are totally. Thanks, Gemma. Thank you very much. Totally agreeing with us. I think, we sometimes forget that, we've actually got a lot of value to offer. And we're still thinking because it's a new venture or something that we're still sort of babes in nappies, when in fact, we need to just acknowledge our value first, and then we can just put that into its perspective and move forward faster. So I think that's enough on that subject for now. I think just evaluate where you're at and just be clear about, what your next steps are, age-based, and also what you want. So, reaching your outcome. Now, often, we get into things for a whole different set of reasons. I think if I had to ask every single one of you online right now why you are doing what you're doing and how you got to make that decision, each one of you would have a different route to how you got to there. There is no one safe, foolproof way to really achieve or know what it is that you want to do. But it is important that, when we're at a place of transition, or we're well on track of where we think we want to go to or are going to, or we can't decide, you need to say and ask these questions. What shall I do? What is important to you? Our value systems, looking at what aligns with our beliefs and our values. If you decide to get into a type of business because it's a good financial investment, but the product or the method of operation doesn't align with your values, you're not going to have a successful outcome. There's going to be conflict. And often that can be very disappointing and disastrous if you haven't anticipated that before you've perhaps laid out some money, a lot of money perhaps, So what is important to you? These are questions you might want to just jot down, because if you can answer them with clarity and detail, you are going to start developing some really powerful tools that are going to help you see what the outcome is that you want. We often get very, very bogged down in what to do, and we forget that there is an objective at the end, an outcome at the end that we really should be focusing on. Often with your outcome, you should be saying, well, what is the result I want to get? Am I looking for fame? Am I looking for massive income? Am I looking for knowledge or experience? And if you're in your own business, or if you're working for someone, there's possibly going to be more than one outcome that you're working on. But we need to be clear about what those are. It's slightly different. It's a different aspect to goal setting, because it kind of takes that heavy goal word out of the way, which can often freeze people up because it seems too structured. So looking at an outcome, where do you want to be in 10 years' time? Ooh, never thought about it. You'll be amazed at how many clients I've had who've actually not been able to even imagine what they would want for themselves in 5 years' time. So what is the outcome that you're looking for right now in your life, in your career, or in your relationship, or perhaps in the new venture that you're looking to go into, or that you've just started? What is the result that you're after? Because often we just dive in and we start, and we're so enthusiastic, and we're loving it because the products are great, we feel great, we're totally motivated because something about it totally connects and excites us. But if we cannot define the reason why we're doing it and the result we're looking for, there's going to come a time when we're going to suddenly get a block, and we're going to become frustrated because we're suddenly in a heavy fog, and we don't know how to get out of the fog because we're getting bogged down with stuff, lots of stuff and lots of people wanting different things from us. So what do you want? Probably the hardest question on the planet. I know for me, it has always been the hardest question, because depending on your upbringing, there's that aspect of, I don't want anything. I have enough of everything. And if you have that mindset, that's fantastic. That's very spiritual, a great outlook on not being materialistic. But when it comes to business or career choices or relationships, even if you're looking for Mr. or Mrs. Perfect, what do you want in that individual? Not how do they look or how do they sound, or perhaps a bit of that, but who are they? In your business, when you're starting out, you start something for a reason. Why is that? And where do you want to take it? If you can find that out, and this could take you a week, it could take you a year. I think it varies from person to person. If you can find that out, if you can take the time, lock yourself away or find a group of trusted advisors and just brainstorm it out and find that what you want factor, you can then begin to build something really magnificent. So the famous to-do list, the reason I put that at the end is that is often where people get foggy. We can make lists until the cows come home. But sometimes when we look at that list, there is no way that we could humanly ever possibly finish it or get it done. And I know I've been guilty in the past of making to-do lists, and then when you have to rewrite it because you've ticked so many things off, and you rewrite, and there's always these 3 or 4 to-dos that are always following your to-do list wherever you go, and you never get to them. So you have to start saying to yourself, is that really relevant? I mean, the heavens have not fallen on my head, and do I really need to do these things? Maybe I just need to get them off the list. So what I like to say, and it's what I've also heard other very high performance people talk about, is focus on the outcome. You can still do your to-do list, but the idea is that once you've got your to-do list, identify the key outcomes that are your main focus right now, and then package your to-do list where they are relevant to the specific outcomes. So you randomly write your to-do list out, and then you say, okay, 1, 6, 8, and 10 are relevant to the outcome over there. And then those various to-dos are relevant to outcome number 2, and the rest actually fall into outcome number 3. Then you look at each outcome with your to-dos for them, and perhaps you clearly can see that there's a couple of things that you haven't even put on the list yet. So add them, because they might, if they're tackled first, nullify quite a few of the other things that you thought were priorities. So if you every single day are saying, what is my outcome? What am I aiming for? What is the result that I'm looking for? Your brain will start to hone in on that, rather than getting bogged down in the nuts and bolts of the to-dos, which often are not actually necessary. And this is especially relevant to people who have many factors. Maybe you have more than one business that you're involved in, or maybe your business has multi-facets to it, and you are that one individual who has to be part of all the bits. You need to have an outcome for each part, and then your to-dos, and then you start quickly seeing what's relevant and what's a priority. The rest will take care of itself, often. So I hope this is valuable, and I hope you're writing notes like crazy as I talk. Right, let's move on and see. Visual media. Has anybody done any visualization or visualizing before? Have you heard of visualization? Well, I learned about it quite a long time ago, and one of the first places I heard about it was actually when I was training as a Mastery Club facilitator. There's a fantastic YouTube clip about a lady called, is it Janine Shepherd? She was an Australian ski Olympian. Okay, slalom. I'm trying to think about the story as I'm talking to you here.
We should see the body movement going on.
I'm skiing down slope, and I've never skied before in my life. But anyway, so she was this champion Olympic skier, and she was out training with her team, and they were doing a run on the road, and a massive truck came along and totally took her out, and she ended up completely and utterly paralyzed, and was told that she'd never walk again. And to cut the story short, but you can go look for Janine Shepherd on YouTube. She basically used visualization to learn to walk again. She visualized her body walking again. Now the thing is that the brain cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is not real. Okay? It's a fact. It's just nice to have some facts. The thing is that whatever we tell it, it will assume is real. So, whether you say you can or whether you say you cannot, you're absolutely right, because your brain will take on whatever information you give to it. Now, often when we want to change things, okay, we need to almost reverse the old message by imprinting a new message in its place. And sometimes when we try and put that on top of an old message, it becomes really murky. But one of the ways that you can successfully retrain your thinking is, one, by saying the affirmations or incantations, where you change your thought process from I am great versus I'm not great, for a very simplistic example. But the other thing is that our brain actually sees in picture. For instance, if you had to close your eyes right now and I had to say to you, see a house, you are never going to see the letters House. You're going to see a house. And none of us are going to see the same house, because each of us are going to see the house that we know, that we identify with, that perhaps we've been in or we've seen, or that we want. Okay? And there is a massive power in being able to visualize something that we desire before we have it. Okay? And this is where there is power in creating vision boards and dream boards. And I'm sure all of you have done something of the sort at some point in your life. If not, then I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the difference between a vision board and a dream board. A vision board is simply taking your goals and your aspirations, the big picture, and placing visual pictures of those desires. So the perfect car that you want, the Ferrari or the Mini or the Aston Martin for some. It's the house by the sea, or it's the house down the road that you've walked past your whole life and said, one day I'm going to own that house. It's the perfect partner, it's the family. Whatever it is that you're really aiming to put into your life, that is what you're going to be putting on your vision board. Where I have fallen in love with dream boards is, I call them the stepping stone to the vision board, where we work very much with intuition. So there's a different method of picture selection, and you come out with a very almost set of surprises where you didn't intentionally put anything on, you didn't get a chance to find intentional visual aids, but what you create is something that shows you your potential next step. And the main difference between these two types of boards is, one can create an enormous amount of pressure to to such a degree that often on a vision board, if where you are right now, where your dream is, seems unrealistic or impossible, you're going to often put that vision board under the bed and pretend it doesn't exist, because there's no ways that you could be the person that could have those things. Whereas the dream board is gentle steps that take you there one step at a time, which is a whole lot better than never getting there at all, I think. So what I've also devised is the Visi dream board, which I think is pretty clear. I don't think I'll explain too much, but it's really taking a few aspects of the goal that you're working on at the specific time, putting that on the board, and then adding your intuitive pictures around that. So you've got a definition of what you want, but at the same time, you've got support towards that. Until you do it, it's hard to explain. So I often do workshops like that. So, you just keep your eyes and ears open and see when they're coming up. If you're ever wanting to take part in one, or if you're keen to do one, just get in touch. But visual media can make such a difference in supporting any goal that you're working with. And often as well, you see, this happens to me often. Sounds like law of attraction. Yes, Christiane, it sort of is in a way. It's allowing you to define what you want and then also letting it go, so that your subconscious has the ability to work on it while you're doing other stuff. Yeah. So I think, visual media has its place. It's a support towards a bigger picture, and it's easy to do, and it's fun. Takes the pressure out of goal setting. Peak performance mindset. Now, successful people, and successful is a different word, has a different meaning for different people, but successful people do things differently. We're talking about the people that we often look at and say, I want to be like that person. They seem to have it all together. I don't know what they do or how they're doing it, but they've got it sorted. And I want to give you a few insights, perhaps lightly hitting on what successful people do. Now, I'm not saying they all attack their wheel of life and know it inside and out. But if you had to draw a circle and create a wheel of life and put in the key things that are important for you, a wheel of life, for me, has different priorities to the wheel of life that you might put together. But key things are your relationships, your work, your environment, your hobbies, your family life, relationships perhaps in the office, your career plans, all those different things. It's good to see where you feel you're at versus where you would like to be. And if you can do that and then start seeing what that wheel looks like, it's very few people that have the wheel that would actually turn and get you down the road. But balance is key. Balance is important, because if we're integrating all the aspects that are important to us in our life, then what happens is we actually are more fulfilled, we have fun while we work hard, and then we are inspired to continue. And we have an environment that is very supportive to our end game. So Wheel of Life is a lovely activity to do. Sleep is very important as well. I mean, we hear it time and time again, and we've seen people who don't sleep. They don't look very good. Sleep is a factor that eludes us if we're worrying about stuff. If we perhaps consume too much alcohol, I think as well, your sleep is totally messed up. And there's a law out there, and I don't think it's the only one, but there's this thing that says we should have at least 8 hours sleep a night, especially 10 o'clock to bed, 6 o'clock awake, where one personal trainer that I was chatting to a while ago spoke to me and said, from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m., your body's in repair mode. it's repairing after all the activities of the day. And from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., it's resting and it's sort of recharging. And that's fantastic. I wonder if it's not possible to consider the fact that if we're more fit and healthy and leading a healthier existence, we might be able to pinch an hour or two on the recharge side. So instead of getting up at 6 in the morning, why not try an extra hour early, getting up at 5 o'clock, and then doing what successful people do, is using that hour to get some very important key things in place for the rest of your day. And what I'm talking about there is a little bit of exercise to sort of wake the body up, or breathing, or meditation, or just making a few notes on what the objectives of the day are, and looking at the diary and just becoming familiar with what the expectation of the day is. There's also an importance to have something very nourishing in the body, food-wise. And that first hour, if you get that out the way, then by the time you get to the office or to your desk, you're in a position where everybody else is still waking up and you're already awake. You've got your nutrition in, you've had your exercise, you're in a good state physically, peak state mentally, and you're ready to go and tackle that day, meet the clients, write that article, or train the room, whatever your thing is, And so the next thing being activity, that's another thing. We were talking about this evening before we started the webinar, we were talking the difference between being highly active versus very still. And sometimes activity doesn't mean being busy. Activity can mean being still and productive with the next steps. Mindset, we all know. That's why we're on this call. That's why we are doing personal growth, because we understand, because we've already accepted that our mindset and how we talk to ourselves and what we believe about ourselves and the world out there has a massive impact to how our life turns out. If I have a low opinion of myself, it is going to be like climbing Everest to try and get the right sale, or get the sales that I need to meet target, to employ the right staff, or to do anything in a very effective, amazing way. But if my mindset is strong, and that is supported by good sleep, good diet, good activity, and good space making as well, and meditation and mindfulness, when we start putting all those things together, we become very clear about where we're going. It helps us choose our right outcomes. It helps us mix with people that are like-minded and support rather than pull us down. So our mindset is the leader on the whole journey. And so it's that mind, body, and spirit connection. One cannot live without the other. So, yes, that's the little bit into the peak performance mindset and sort of some of the things successful people do. But getting your state right before you go into a meeting or go into a presentation, getting your mind clear about what it is you're about to do is vital to success. And a lot of people do not give that enough attention. So, some food for thought. So the High Achievers Motivation Formula is something that I've been working on for a little while now. I call it a planner like no other, because obviously I've created it, so of course I'm going to be of that opinion. But really what I've done is I've noticed, especially now, that there are loads of these daily planners that have come out. There's books, there's so much amazing stuff out there. But what I'm doing is, after, based on what I've spoken about to you this evening, my planner is focusing very much on that result, that outcome. and helping you to train yourself into working that into your everyday life, and also getting those to-dos defined to the outcome rather than just a random list of to-dos that have no kind of direction, so to speak. It is in its final stages of approval, so it's not hot off the press just yet. But I am excited to say that I have said to Stacey that you all who've been online tonight will be receiving it hot off the press, and you will be the first people to receive the planner, and we'll be sending it out in a PDF format directly to you all. Hopefully, all things, fingers crossed, by the end of the week. So, this is going to be what I believe anybody who wants to move from where they are to where their next step is. I'm not talking from where you are to necessarily, well, we won't say President of the United States, but your next step. We're all on an individual journey. We're not competing with anybody around us. Each of us is on our own personal journey. So your high achiever objectives are very different to the person next to you. So this high achiever's motivation formula is something you can apply to your needs, your dreams, and you can take you and yourself calmly and very smoothly along this journey to your next step, your next level of achievement. There we go. So look out for that. I promise you it'll be out soon, and it'll be coming through the Wolfpack.
Yeah, we'll send out an email after this event, just with a link to the PDF. And also, if we hope you all enjoyed today's session. If you have any questions, we would love to hear them. And before we get into that stage, I just want to tell you a little bit more about our 21-day Success Academy. So Theresa is one of 10 coaches that we have at the Wolfpack who are all around helping people to get motivated in every area of your life. So if you have a goal, for example, to get fit, maybe to lose weight, or possibly you're looking to build your business, there's a lot more, as you'll have heard from Theresa today, to consider than just that one activity. So we are inviting you to join our 21-day Success Academy. The price is £9.99, and for that you get obviously access to the High Achievers formula, which motivation formula, as well as a nutrition plan from specifically trained nutritionalists and dietitians, and monthly training program. So there's really lots of support going to be offered with the 21-day Success Academy from other people who are in similar situations, as well as our coaches who will be putting together podcasts, playlists, just other things that will just keep you on track and keep you achieving your dreams. In addition to that, Theresa has kindly agreed to offer a discounted rate on one-to-one sessions to everybody who joined today's today's session. So you can find more about that on our websites, and the links are on the presentation. Alternatively, you can go to www.the-wolf-pack.co.uk.
That's fantastic. And yes, so if you would be interested in having or booking a session with me, please feel free to click the link and sign up, and then I will be in touch to organize a suitable time. Most of the time I work via Skype because it's just so time effective for us all. So yeah, just get in touch. The High Achievers Motivation Formula, as I said earlier, will be off to you guys, sent out directly to you by the end of the week. And well, why sign up? I just think there is an enormous amount of value here, and it is designed in a way for all the aspects that the Wolfpack offer, designed in a way to keep you on track without distraction. You know, you come in here and you get a specific set of products, and they're all of a high standard and their quality, and they will not be pulling you in different directions, but rather they're all part of a big picture. So, you know, it really, go and read up about the 21 Day Success Academy on the link. And, you know, it's a small investment for a lot of value. And, you know, it just means you can be part of more webinars like this, and hopefully we'll get to meet each other face to face one day as well. Wouldn't that be fun? So, you know, what others have had to say about various things. I mean, in my coaching, you know, I was saying to Stacey earlier today, I had a woman who was seriously unhappy in her marriage, and she started jogging for sanity. And it was a very unhappy time for her, but her running got her into a place where she could think while she ran. And one day I said to her, you know, where's this running going to take you? So she said, well, I've entered my first 10K. And she said, I'm hoping to do it within an hour, you know, by an hour. And I said to her, well, that's fantastic, you know, because now she had taken what was going to be something to give her sanity. This was something that was now becoming, she was building it up to be more. It was like a personal challenge for her. And then we had a coaching session, and she said, I said to her, how's the training going? She says, well, she says, you know, I don't even know if I need to do the marathon anymore, because she said, I achieved my goal in training last night. And I said, oh my God, I said, that is brilliant, amazing, well done. And she said, yeah, but I mean, I don't need to go do the marathon now. And I said, hey, you're thinking short. What she did